Good morning. We had a special day today. You know, the experiences you have at Taft are really incredible. Don't take these things for granted. We have tremendous speakers come through. A lot of colleges and universities don't have this opportunity. And a broad spectrum of people up. Talking to Zach Ailes, when Bob Herbert was here from the New York Times, the journalist, one thing led to another, and I found out that Bob Herbert was teaching a class at Columbia School of Journalism with Roger Ailes and former Mayor Dinkins. And I said, well, let's get your father here. And so Roger is here, Mr. Ailes is here, and we're grateful, and I want to introduce him right now. Roger Ailes is well known to the public as the chairman and CEO of Fox News, running all operations for both Fox News Channel and the Fox Business Network. Additionally, he serves as the chairman of the Fox television station and as senior advisor to 21st Century Fox chairman and CEO Rupert Murdoch. In 1996, Mr. Ailes oversaw the creation and launch of the Fox News Channel, which became the top-rated cable news network in 2002, and has remained #1 for the past 13 years. Megyn Kelly, Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity, Greta Van Susteren are among the most well-known on the network. In 2007, Mr. Ailes launched the Fox Business Network, a 24-hour financial news channel featuring top names in business like Maria Bartiromo, Neil Cavuto, and Lou Dobbs. 12 years ago, he founded the Ailes Apprentice program, which is known throughout the television industry for hiring, training, and promoting minority students. I think he's going to focus a little bit on that today, too. Prior to Fox, Mr. Ailes was president of CNBC, where he helped establish the network internationally as the leading source for business news. Mr. Ailes was also the head of America's Talking, an information talk channel which later became MSNBC. He got his start in television in 1965, where at the age of 25, he was promoted from prop boy to executive producer of the Emmy Award-winning show, the Mike Douglas Show, which I remember watching when I was a kid. For more than 2 decades that followed, Mr. Ailes worked as a top consultant, producer, and director. From 1970 to 1992, he owned his own company, Ailes Communications, whose clients included 3 United States presidents, several senators and governors, as well as the Fortune 500 CEOs. He retired from politics in 1992. Mr. Ailes is a native of Warren, Ohio, and a graduate of Ohio University, which awarded him an honorary doctorate in communications. He was also awarded an honorary doctorate of laws from Pepperdine University. In 2011, the Congressional Medal of Honor Society bestowed Mr. Ailes with the Tex McCreary Award for Excellence in Journalism. And the following year, he received a Bradley Prize at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. for being a visionary in American journalism. He is also a recipient of the Navy SEAL Patriot Award. It's the highest award given by the SEALs to a civilian. Mr. Ailes was inducted into the Broadcasting and Cable Hall of Fame and honored by the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Over the course of his career, he's repeatedly been named one of the most powerful people in TV news by multiple television magazines, including just last week by The Hollywood Reporter. Mr. Ailes fully embodies the core values of Taft, including working exceptionally hard, developing your talents, and giving of yourselves to others. He tells me that more than the awards and titles, he's most proud of his son, Zachary, for becoming a Taft student. So please join me this morning and warmly welcome Mr. Roger Ailes.
I think I'll quit now. I don't think it's going to get any better than this. Thank you for a very nice introduction. Thank Willie for inviting me here today, and thank you all for showing up. There'll be no snoring during this. I know some of you like to go back to bed in this hour, but I'm happy you're here. Last couple of days I've been trying to figure out what to talk about. I talked to Willie about it, and he gave me some guidance. I think what I'm going to do is just give you a few pointers that I wish people had given me when I was your age, which was during the Civil War. I'm just testing the history people here to make sure. Life is simple, but it's not easy. You'll see that as we proceed. Let me first clear up a misconception that it's difficult to succeed. It's actually easy. If you combine your individual talent with persistence, common sense, and the knowledge of right and wrong, there will be some tough times, but you can succeed. They always say, you know, it's very narrow at the top. That's not really true. A lot of people don't want to put out the effort to get to the top. There's actually a lot of room at the top for good people. So you can succeed. Don't ever let anybody tell you anything different. Thomas More once said, "You must not abandon the ship in a storm because you cannot control the winds." The winds will blow, change will come. The most important thing for you to learn is to adapt to change without wavering on personal principles. You'll hear your country criticized frequently, and that's okay. It's one of the best things about our country. But stand firm in the defense, because we live in a country where we believe individuals are innocent till proven guilty. I believe we owe the same courtesy to our country. We must not get up every morning assuming America is wrong. Many in the media do, because there are a lot of things right about this country. We're only about 230 years old. I was in Europe a few weeks ago with a family, and it was interesting to see 1,000-year-old cities and so on. But none of them have the kind of freedoms America has. They just don't. The United States has fed more and freed more people on earth than all of the other countries put together. That's a pretty good record. So I also criticize our country, criticize politics, criticize all that, but never lose sight of the truth, which is slavery was the worst blight on our history. So we ended it. It's going on rampantly all over the world, and nobody's working to end it. So just be sure you always know where you came from. We have a historic history, and we have a heroic history as well. Many of the traditional values and institutions that made this country great are under attack. That's fine, because we have freedom of speech and freedom of the press. But if there is a defense for the right things we do, it will fall on your generation to stand up for them and fight for them and be fair when you're criticizing. Keep in mind, the way you can tell we have a great country, everybody's trying to get in and nobody's trying to get out. Think about that. Don't let people talk you out of succeeding, make you feel guilty about making a good living. We have a responsibility to assist the poor. Who assists the poor? The rich. I have to go to an event every night in Manhattan to raise money to help somebody, which I'm happy to do. But don't hate one segment of society in deference to the other. You want to be rich, so you can help. You can give it all away if you want, and then you can really help. But don't dislike the people who achieve and succeed. You can do whatever you want with it once you get it. But don't listen to those who say it's a bad idea to achieve or succeed or to get rich. Every time I needed a job, I went to a rich guy. I love poor people, but they never had a job for me. I worked for Rupert Murdoch. He's rich. Also a very nice guy, and also gives millions and millions to charity. So just be sure you get it in perspective. The best thing you can do, of course, is create a business. When I created Fox News, I created 2,000 jobs that didn't exist before. I now run the television stations and Fox News. So I have about 6,000 employees. And the one thing about winning, they tell you, you know, today's world, oh, tie's great. Ties aren't great. Ties mean you didn't win. I think that's what it means. We didn't win, guys. Why is winning important? Because we can charge more for our commercials when we win. Therefore, I can keep people employed longer than everybody else. And we are the only network in New York that has not had job layoffs in the last 10 years. I haven't had to go to my people and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut 30% of the workforce, and tough luck for Christmas. I don't like to do that. So I want to win so that everybody can put food on the table. You're headed into a transition period. The next few years, you'll begin to make decisions for your life. How you handle those years as you mature and take on more responsibilities will set the tone for the rest of your life. The background you receive from your families, your supporters, and here at Taft Education, you're on your way to making major contributions to the future of the country. In the end, you will be judged by the things you contribute, not the things you acquire. So don't worry about acquiring things. If you've got a roof over your head, enough to eat, and a nice shirt so you can get in a restaurant, you're all right. After that, it's luxury. You should have some, and most of all, you should have fun. The first thing I tell people at Fox is, if you're not happy here and you're not having fun here, you need to get out of here, because we don't want to be around downers. Don't be afraid of challenges. Much of your success will come from taking on difficult situations. When I started the Fox News Channel, I was up against CNN and MSNBC. One had Time Warner, 17-year head start. The other had GE and Microsoft, the number one and number two richest companies in America. It was 1996. I had nothing to start with. I had a third of the resources, no base in news. The television stations were chasing ambulances, but there was nothing there you could put on a network. I had no studios, no talent, no programs, no news gathering, no offices, no control rooms, and no staff. 6 months later, we launched. CNN had a 17-year head start. We passed both MSNBC and CNN in 5 years, and for the last 13 years, we have not lost a single day to either one. Let me show you just a graph here, this may surprise you. The top line is Fox News, the red line is CNN, and the green line is MSNBC. So we didn't have layoffs. They did. And I judge it by what you can do for people with what you're doing. And we've done a lot for people. I also took a situation where I said there's nothing we will black out. We'll carry any story if it helps people live their lives and achieve their goals, and if it's information they should have. So we have not blacked out a story, and we have not had to change a story in 18 years because we got it wrong. That is not the popular conception of Fox News today, because we are mostly criticized by our competitors, and they're getting their tails beat. And they don't like that. So the best they can do is criticize us. Your generation is engaged in a global struggle of good versus evil. Last night, some people in Italy threw a bunch of Christians off a boat and drowned them. This is going on all over the world. There's religious persecution, racial persecution, lots of persecution. The one country that stands out, get a globe, look at it, we don't do that here. We don't. We have a system of laws. And other people would like to be us, but they don't do it. Few practical pointers I'd like to go over. The most important advice I ever read was from a guy named Peter Drucker. If you're studying management, you might recognize the name. Peter Drucker died about 10 years ago, I think. He was 96 years old, and he wrote several books on business management. But it all came down to this: the difference between activity and results. You have to know the difference. When you hear, we're going to have a meeting, we care, we'll postpone, we need to have a dialogue about this. It's all activity. When the problem is solved and something is accomplished and somebody is helped, that's a result. And that's what you want. Results. Never confuse the two. I hear occasionally, because I happen to know a Taft student, I worked hard on that. I said, that's activity. What's the result? You think it's tough being my kid? What's the result? I lost my place. I got so excited about that one. People define success differently. I had a friend who said, and some people say it's money, it's position, it's power. You know, I had a friend who didn't care much about money. He always used to say to me, I have as much money as I'll ever need as long as I die by 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then he'd borrow money from me. So you can't afford to have too many friends like that. I've always considered success not a destination, but a journey. If you're having fun along the way, it doesn't feel so bad. I've worked in television. I like television. So even when I have a bad day, it's not a bad day. You know, if you're doing something you don't want to do, that's bad. When I was in college, I thought if I ever make $20,000 a year, it's going to be great. Today, that's below the poverty level. So, you know, life changes. Times change. Adapt. And don't feel guilty about it. I think the trick is to find something you like to do and get somebody to pay you to do it. If you can do that, it gets easier. So focus in on the things you like to do and do them well. Make sure you're the best at that. When young people come to the Fox News Channel, I tell them that to satisfy their fundamental desire to succeed, they're going to need 4 things. Now, I'll tell you about this Apprentice program in a second, but I go through this with the new apprentices and the interns and everybody. Excellence. It requires hard work, clear thinking, the application of your unique talent, a desire to do a better job every day, and to get better at your job every day. That's the cornerstone of a great career, and if you don't do it, you should get sick and go toss up your cookies in the bushes and go home and study and come back and do it tomorrow. Integrity. Nothing is more important than giving your word and keeping it. Don't blame others for your mistakes, Don't take credit for other people's work. Don't lie, cheat, or steal. People figure it out, and you'll never regain your reputation. Teamwork. Everything I ever worked on in my life required a team. Television requires a team. Everything you do requires a team. So, you don't blame others, you offer to help. You solve problems together. Give credit to the other people. And don't expect loyalty if you don't give it. Teamwork is critical. The last one is my favorite. It's attitude. You live in your own mind. If you believe you're a victim, you'll be a victim. If you believe you'll succeed, you'll succeed. Negative people make positive people physically ill. All progress depends on positive people. Get away from the other ones. They're going to drag you down. When I was a young man, I met a guy who faced triumph and disaster. His name was Martin Luther King. Dr. King was a very brave man. He knew that doing what he was doing, he could die. He sat in my office at the Mike Douglas show on 3 different occasions, and I had an opportunity to sit there and talk with him. He had tremendous pressure to lead a violent revolution in this country, and we needed a revolution. But he refused to do it. He said, "We will change this country peacefully." Now, you look at the evening news, a lot of countries don't buy that. Look at the riots in Egypt and the things going on in Africa and other places around the world, Indonesia. It's not done that way. It's done that way in America. And King led the way. So he will go down in history as a great man. People who are willing to give up their life to win peacefully deserve the respect that we should also give our military. They do that every day. Our military goes out there, puts their own life on the line for almost no money, for sacrifice of the family, and they do it. They want peace, and they're willing to die for it. You have to respect that. Now, I want everybody in the room reach up as high as you can. Go ahead. Okay. Now reach up a little higher. Whoops. 2 things I just learned. 1, you don't follow orders. I told you to reach up the first time as high as you could. Second time, you got another 6 inches out of it, didn't you? Huh? So you can always go further than you think. Once you commit, commit. If it's as high as you go, go. Don't sit around and wait for somebody to ask you twice. I started an apprentice program 10 years ago because I found that minority students had no access to good jobs. And in media, there aren't a lot of minority students. And I saw a couple who were interns one summer, and when it got to be September, they went back to school, and I lost them. And I said, "Where are those guys? They were great." They said, "Well, they don't really have access like a lot of the kids do because they're related to somebody or they live in a neighborhood with somebody. They don't know anybody." So I said, "All right, let's find how many do we usually get?" I said, 6 or 8 we usually get really good people, but they go back to wherever. I said, find them. We're going to create a new strata. We have interns that come from colleges and so on. We'll call them apprentices. The problem is I can't give them a job today because they're not trained in the television business. So bring them in, we'll interview them, We'll give them 1 year, we'll pay them at least what the entry level is, which is a production assistant, and we'll give them a mentor. And they will work for a year in the area of their choice. So we have people in finance and production and on the air and whatever. During that year, they can consult their mentor whenever, and they learn the job they want. At the end of the year, I have a luncheon. I tell all my senior executives to go. We give them a $1,000 bonus and a certificate. Interestingly enough, the certificate means at least as much as the money. Usually more, because they've never had anything to put up on the wall and say, look what I did. The most important thing about my program, which is different from anybody else's, I've been to a lot of these minority luncheons and dinners and events and fairs. We guarantee them a job. If their mentor recommends them for a job after that year, they get a job automatically. So I have 40 or 50 of these people all throughout News Corporation, Fox News, on the air. A young lady named Trish up in Chicago who's on the air at one of the stations. And I'll show you a couple of them. I think I got a couple with me. Let me see. Whoops. That's a poll that was taken. I'll just give you this quickly. This poll was taken about 2 months ago by Quinnipiac, which is a solid poll. And they asked who were the most trusted name in news. Remember, I told you, we never took a story down because we got it wrong. The most trusted name in news, you see on the left, against NBC, CBS, everybody else, was Fox. On the right, who has the most independent viewers? People who are not committed Republicans or Democrats. We have more conservatives watching than we have liberals, but that's because liberals have several other channels. But we have the largest section of independent viewers of any network in America. So we were very proud of that poll. Go to the next slide. We clock 250 cable networks every month. Fox News Channel, you see, was number 1. MSNBC was number 27. CNN was number 28. And those are high numbers for those guys. They're usually 31, 32, 33. So I check that once a month just to be sure things are going fine. And they are. All right, switch again. This is a young man, Hispanic fellow, Brian Yanes, who went through our Apprentice program. We found him to be a very good reporter. We trained him, and he's now a Washington general assignment reporter for Fox News. Next. That's Queenette. She is an on-air reporter as well. She came in, went through our Apprentice program, did very well, and she's now on the air. Let's go again. Next. That's Frankie Cortez. I started a Hispanic website about 4 or 5 years ago, and I put Frankie Cortez in there. He has now been promoted twice and he runs the Hispanic website. I just sent him to Israel I couldn't go to a meeting, and he went in and stood in for me. So I'm training him for senior management. Okay, here, Roy Eaton on the left. At the graduation for the apprentices, I try to bring in somebody famous to speak to them. 2 people came in. First of all, in the yellow shirt, is a guy named Roy Eaton. He doesn't look it, but he's in his 80s. In 1955, he broke the color line at the major advertising agencies in New York. He was so talented. He was a Carnegie Hall pianist, and he wrote some of the most clever jingles, and they realized we got to have Roy in the room. So for the last 60 years, they've called him, he's rich. He still plays piano. He comes in every year for our apprentices and plays piano for our graduation. A very talented guy. The other guy is the former governor of the state of Virginia, the first African American to achieve that. Okay, next. I'm sort of the cute but somewhat heavy guy in the middle. I've actually recently lost 30 pounds, so I don't know if it does it show. When you have a kid in school, it can make you really nervous, you know, so you tend to shed the old pounds. David Dinkins on my right, let me see what's your left. Dinkins was the first African-American mayor of New York. He's a buddy of my son, Zach. They hang out together at a party every year. Yeah, just got both party guys. But David, he teaches at Columbia now, and I do a couple of classes a year up there for him. He's become a good friend. And on the other side is a man I've known for 40 years, Jesse Jackson. His daughter now is a contributor to Fox News. She's got a beautiful voice. She sings. She's not on as a singer, but she is a singer. And so they came in for our graduation last year. Next. That is, let's see, there's David Dinkins again. The guy out here in the blue sweater is Geraldo Rivera, a good friend of mine for the last 35 years. Actually, Geraldo's half Jewish and half Puerto Rican. And I always say, I don't know which one's talking to me right now, but somebody's trying to get the best of me in this negotiation. I've saved his career a few times, which he will admit to. But Geraldo's a very brave guy. I can call Geraldo at 3 in the morning and say, I got blood in the ground in a drug bust in Venezuela. He said, I'm on my way. He went into Iraq for me with the first team, and he got in a day and a half ahead of CNN because he commandeered a helicopter from some cheesy place. I don't know where it was. Anyway, it blew up the next day, but it didn't blow up with him on it. So he got in a little ahead of time, and he just got a lot of guts, and he and I have been friends. But I have a deal where I'll pay his family $1 million if he's killed in combat. So the last time I sent him out, I got a call, and they said, Geraldo's on the phone. I said, I thought he was in Europe. He said, he is. So I got on, I said, where are you? He said, I just landed in Paris. I want to be sure our deal's still in place. And I said, it's in place if you're killed in combat, but one of your ex-wives kills you, you're on your own, buddy. I ain't paying that. So we have a pretty good relationship. The other guy is Jose Hernandez. He is an astronaut, and he grew up. He didn't speak English until he was 12 years old, and he was a crop picker in California with his family, and he became an astronaut and a scientist. So he came in and spoke to us as well. I don't know if that's the last of the slides or not. Let me see. No, here we are. In the yellow is Bernice King. She's the youngest daughter of Coretta Scott King and Martin Luther King. And on the other side is Alveda King. She is the nephew of Martin Luther King, and we just made a deal with her to be on Fox News as well. They came in this time. So the Martin Luther King Foundation and so on has recognized the Ailes Apprentice program as one of the most effective they've ever seen because we actually guarantee jobs at the end. So we're happy to have them aboard. Is that the end of the slides? What I don't have is one day I was in my office. I'm going to shut up here in a minute. Oops, we're running over. All right, I'll shut up. The cleaning lady came in my office one night at 6 o'clock. Kind of a husky girl. But very nice, and would always say, can I get you any water or anything, coffee or anything? And I realized she had makeup on, and I said, Fuja, she's from Northern Africa, Morocco, I think. And I said, Fuja, what are you doing? You got makeup on, you look great. She said, well, they let me use the makeup after I clean up the makeup room downstairs. So I asked her, I said, how long have you been here? She said, oh, I've been here 12 years. And I said, do you have a family? She said, I'm a single mom. My sister stays with my son at night. I said, you always work nights? She said, I've worked nights for 12 years. I said, do you have benefits? She said, no. I said, what do you make? And I think they made $11 an hour or something like that. So after she left, I called our lawyer and I said, do we have a program to pay for school for people? And our company, parent company, has a program for $3,000. I said, what would you be doing, Fuja, if you could? She said, oh, I'd be a makeup person if I could ever learn to do it. So I called our lawyer, Diane Brandy, and I said, Diane, get Fuja off the cleaning shift and send her to makeup school. And then put her in the makeup room as an apprentice. So she worked in the makeup room as an apprentice for a year. And I don't know, a year and a half later, I was walking down the hall and I saw her walking toward me with a little makeup kit and a blazer on, and she looked great. I said, hey, Fuja, got a minute? She said, sure, Mr. Ailes. I said, how are you doing? She said, oh, I'm fine. I'm doing really well. I said, how much did you make last year? She said, $55,000, and I get benefits, and I work daytime, so I can spend the evening with my son. I said, that's great. So she's still there, and the interesting thing about that is the makeup person is the last person to see somebody before they go on the air. You want somebody who's up, bubbly, happy. You don't want somebody saying, my dog got run over today. It's not good. So it brings everybody down. So anyway, she's now a very popular makeup woman at Fox. I think I need my glasses. The Taft motto of not to be served, but to serve. I've always heard, and I said it earlier in the speech, the trick to life is not to acquire things, but to contribute something. And the other way I heard it, my dad used to say, people are always going to tell you to live and let live. He said, that's actually not enough. You got to live and help live. And it sounds like Taft has figured that out 125 years ago, or whenever this started, and is doing a spectacular job. So you're the luckiest people in the world, in the greatest country in the world. I know that sounds nationalistic. Guess what? I've been around the world, and I'm always happy to get off when I get in New York and go get a cheeseburger and don't have anybody tell me what to do. Okay? Thank you very much.